Good evening, Raw dealers. What is up? I am Azareth Strife. I am back with another video. This one has been pretty widely anticipated. It's a deck that I'm very proud of. I really enjoy playing. Deck that got really strong in V11. Some of the support they got is just chef's kiss. Um, so I bring you the Vaudevillains. Great, great tag team from back when WWE actually knew what to do with them in NXT, and then they got ruined when they got caught up to the main roster. But so the Vaudevillains in Raw Deal are they really encompass that theme that they had um, as a tag team, where they were very classic wrestlers. They were all about the old timey wrestling persona. And that is definitely shown within their cards, within what they're trying to do, what their deck does, and hopefully you'll see that like I did. So starting off, they are a 7-1, so underrated superstar, all for that, um, and they're a tag team, which is really good. So their ability is when they successfully play a card with classic in the title, they draw a card and put a card from the hand on the bottom of their arsenal. So they get some hand filtering whenever they successfully play classic maneuvers. They get to pack 2 copies of unique maneuvers with classic in the title. They are not heel or face. They're now NXT. And then you can't pack any belts other than the tag team titles, or there is no escape, which makes a lot of sense since since they're generally built around these classic maneuvers. Those are all unique. It was kind of just an easy way to build them if they could. So the dev team was smart enough to not allow that. So this is really good because a lot of those classic maneuvers are pretty good, and they're even better in multiples. And we're going to get into their backstage cards that really amp those maneuvers up. So going in, we have an Old School Auditor. So this card's very important. This is I believe, one of the V11 cards. This gets to search for the artiste's auditory ability and put it in their ring immediately when you reveal it. And then once during each of your turns, you can shuffle it into your arsenal to search your arsenal for a classic maneuver. Your classic maneuvers are considered non-unique for your effects when searching your arsenal. So cards that say search for a non-unique card, you can search for your classic maneuvers. You ignore the can be reversed text when you have equal or lower fortitude. So they're no longer able to be reversed as non-unique maneuvers. And when they're unsuccessful, your opponent puts a random card from his hand on the bottom of his arsenal. He does 2 random cards if you have lower fortitude. So they're just going to wear your hand down as they're playing these classic maneuvers, and eventually get to the point where they're going to start going through. And I'll get into the artiste's auditory ability once I get into the deck. Manly Manifesto. So you could pack It's Showtime and 3 Old School Antics in your backstage, but you can't pack them in your Backlash deck. When you reveal this card, you put those cards into your Backlash deck, and when you would overturn for It's Showtime, you put them in your hand instead, which is great. This deck can get a serious hand size to start with. Once during each of your turns, you can reveal your hand. If you have no classic maneuvers, you ringside search a classic maneuver without cannot be reversed in its text. Your That's a Wrap and Gentleman's Clutch are considered to be classic for your superstar-specific effects. Those are 2 of their superstar-specific maneuvers. And when you have 3 Old School Antics in your ringside, That's a Wrap is blank. So it's important. That's a Wrap is a maneuver that has a can only be played text. So if it's blank, you can just throw it. And then the Old Fashioned Way. Once during each of your turns, you get to reveal a classic card from your hand, put it on the bottom of your arsenal, and then ringside search a maneuver with classic in the title and put it in your hand. So you get to look into your ringside pile for a classic maneuver, put it in your hand. And then when you activate Old School Antics and you have lower fortitude, you double the numbers, and that effect cannot be reversed. Very good card. This is what it's going to allow you to just keep having maneuvers to keep throwing. And then we are doing NXT Breakout Star. You're an NXT superstar. There's really no reason not to pack this card and reveal it. It's considered superstar specific. You don't discard for Armageddon is upon us. And then once during each of your turns, you can overturn 4 cards to draw a card. You get to overturn 2 if you have lower fortitude. We are also packing the other 5 base ones. I just didn't put them on the screen anymore. The other 5 base ones are autograph signing, autograph appearance, signing appearance, autograph session, backstage signature, 5th anniversary, 10th anniversary. Sorry, I got a little tripped up there. So my group prefers and believes in pack all the backstage cards. You don't reveal all of them in every matchup. You want to have the ones that you're going to play for certain instances. With this lineup, I will probably reveal these ones, and then probably 10th anniversary. In some decks, I'll reveal all of them. Other decks, I'll only reveal 10th. Other decks, I'll only reveal something else. But it's always good to be in a habit of packing all of them just in case. So, as our Manly Manifesto said, we get to pack It's Showtime in our backstage area. So we have a way of jumping these into the ring. So I'll just go over them now. When this card's in your ring, if it's the first turn of the game, you may reveal your hand to your opponent, overturn 2 cards, and end your opponent's turn. So you're going to get to go first with It's Showtime, unless there's some other kind of stipulation going on. And you get to draw 2 off of this because of our card instead of overturning 2, which is great. And then Old School Antics. These are also going to jump into our ring. When it's in your ring, you can ace it to shuffle up to 2 cards from your ring set pile in your arsenal. If you have lower fortitude because of, I believe also for Old Fashioned Way, you'll shuffle 4, and it can't be reversed. And we have a sneaky way of putting these back into your ring area once we've used them. It's really cool. So we can get a lot of recursion going on with this deck. So starting out into our pre-match, we're playing the NXT Allegiance. We Are Not Your Kind. So we can't pack Raw, SmackDown, ECW, WCW, or NWO. We can't pack from NXT to WWE or NXT Arrival. My original build from this wasn't running the NXT Allegiance cards and was running from NXT to WWE because of my ability, getting to draw 2, put 1 on the bottom. I figured it wasn't worth it, and I liked the NXT package a little bit better. So your NXT mid-match and non-object NXT pre-match cards don't take up slots in your ring. And then when your NXT mid-match is unsuccessful, you may discard 2 cards and put it in your Backlash deck instead. Just a really good Allegiance. Mainly, it's really good because of another pre-match card. So we're running Full Sail. NXT Arena Full Sail. We get to play this even if our opponent has a venue. When we play NXT Generation, we can play it regardless of fortitude rating. And when it's in our ring, we can shuffle it into our arsenal when we successfully play a superstar-specific NXT card, which is awesome. NXT Generation is a great healing card. And then your NXT cards are -1 fortitude for every card in your ring with the word fans or crowd. And then during any turn, when you successfully play a face, heel, cheater, or fan favorite card, you get to promo 2. We don't have a lot for that the minus fortitude cost part, but we are playing a face deck, as you can see. So we're going to get that promo effect as well. One other thing, guys, I am going to start doing something a little different with this video. I'm actually going to put the list in the description of the video. I'm going to try to start doing this for my videos. I've been asked multiple times if I could. My original thought of doing it was I didn't want people to just go to the list and not watch the video. So hopefully you guys still watch the video and see how I talk about how the cards interact and get to see the list a little bit easier, because obviously recording on an octagon screen is a little more difficult. But hopefully you look at the list, listen to me talking about the deck and how everything works together. Sorry for that little bit of a tangent. Stipulation, we're running Handicap Match Throwback. We're a tag team. I think this is probably the best stipulation for a tag team to run in most cases. We get +2 pre-match, +2 mid-match, +1 hand size, and they take -1 hand size. And then once during each of our turns, during each of our opponent's turns, when we reverse a maneuver from hand, we can put a random card from our ring side on the bottom of our arsenal. But we can't play the champions here. Then we're playing Managed by William Regal. At the end of the pre-match phase, we get to search our arsenal for a non-unique maneuver, a non-unique action, and a non-unique reversal. Reveal them. Technical difficulties, guys. I apologize for that. My headset decided to just go to sleep. I don't want to re-record everything, so I hope you guys can bear with me for that. So, managed by William Regal, we're going to get to search for a non-unique maneuver, non-unique action, and non-unique reversal. We reveal them to our opponent. He chooses 2 of those cards. One goes in. We then get to choose to shuffle one of them into our arsenal and put the other in our hand. The card not chosen goes to our ringside. So this is a little bit of a more confusing card. If you want to get the card that you really want, just search for 2 cards, because your opponent can then only pick the 2 and you get to choose which one you get. This deck actually can get 3, because we're going to get the cards we want anyway. We get to search for any of our classic maneuvers because they're considered non-unique. We get to search for a non-unique action, which can be like volley this or don't try this at home. And then we're going to search for a non-unique reversal, which will probably either be Revo, once is enough, one of those, or maybe even a sidewalk slam if we need it. Our opponent's going to pick 2 of those. Whatever one doesn't get picked goes to our ringside, and we have a way to pick it up, which is going to be good. I'll go over, actually right now I'll go over the maneuver that I'll generally search for. I'll search for classic snap suplex, so that if they don't pick this one, this is the only unique card we're searching for. If they don't pick this one, it goes to our ringside anyway, and that's kind of where we want it. We want it in our ringside anyway, because we can play it from ringside, and then we don't get to play it from ringside, we can pick it up from our ringside pile, and we get to arsenal search a classic or suplex card if we play it successfully. So I'll search for this, a Revo, and probably like a volley this, or a don't try this at home. They will most likely not give us the Revolution of the Mind, which will go to our ringside, and then we have a way to pick it up from our ringside. First event that I'm going to play is NXT Takeover. This is a new V11 card. This card is so good. This card keeps some of the degenerate hand destruction and even backlash destruction at bay. So your opponent cannot reduce your pre-match capacity or starting hand size or make you discard cards before the draw segment. Already worth its weight to play. At the end of the pre-match phase, when a venue is in any ring, we're playing a venue, you may shuffle up the number of cards from your hand into your arsenal and draw the same number of cards plus 1. Number is equal to the number of NXT cards in your ring. So this is especially good with the Vaudevillains, because we get to search for an additional NXT card at the beginning of the game. Like, even when we just reveal our backstage cards, we get to go search for the artist's auditory ability, and that is an NXT card as well, and it'll go right into our ring. So by the end of it, we are going to be able to go up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So shuffle up to 7 from our hand and draw up to 8. That's great. And then as an ace, when he plays a card, you get to put 1 NXT card from your ring under this card, and then your reversals are not affected by his cards for the rest of the turn. Just a great way of getting out of a jam as well. This isn't in the next exact order. We play Making Your Escape. We need to make sure that we can get our cards back from our ringside, so we need to make sure we can get out of Hell in a Cell. This is our way to do that. That's the only reason it's in here. The next card after Takeover I'll play is Old School Psychology, just in case they are playing Premier SmackDown Superstar or anything that lets them draw cards. This will get us back in line with them as they're drawing, so they're going to have to discard as they're playing their pre-match. So your opponent can't play the card titled Old School Wrestling Match, and when he plays a Backlash Deck card, he discards a card. Then we're playing the NXT Tag Team title belts. So when we're an NXT superstar, we get +1 hand size. When we're a tag team, our opponent takes -1 hand size. And because we're the Vaudevillains, at the end of the pre-match phase, we get to put up to one non-unique card from our ringside into our hand. So as I said, with Managed by William Regal, we can, kind of make them give us the cards that we want, because we're going to be able to pick it up from our ringside anyway. Gather around, everyone, and witness the Debonair devastation of such exquisite sophistication. So this card can't be blanked and doesn't take up a slot. Wouldn't take up a slot anyway because it's an NXT card. At the end of the pre-match phase, This is the card that puts its Showtime and any number of Old School Antics from your Backlash or ringside pile into your ring. When this card's in your ring and you play a maneuver with Classic in the title as a counter, ignore the can be reversed text. So now we're going to be able to remove that can be reversed text when we play them as a counter and when we have equal or lower fortitude. Really great to make those back to full-on unique maneuvers. We are running Underrated Superstar because we're only a 1 superstar. Our belt only gives us +1. So just being able to draw 3 cards, and then if we have to discard a card, we're okay with that. I mentioned this deck can get a lot of cards in their opening hand. I believe it is 17 or 18 that they can get, just with the way that I have the pre-match set up. Playing by the rules throwback. You guys know me. You guys know I love this card. I've already shown you it's a face deck, and there's a very specific reason that I'm playing this card, and it was the whole reason why I wanted to play the Vaudevillains in the first place. Much like with my last video with the Edge deck that I wanted to play face, I played face for a different reason. I played face for this card in tandem with one of their superstar specifics. So if this is the first video you guys have watched that has this card, it doesn't take up a slot, but you can't pack it when packing heal cards. Your opponent's heal and run-in reversals are +5 fortitude, and your face reversals are -5 fortitude. When he has no-show in his ring, he randomly shuffles 1 card into his arsenal from underneath no-show. So this is giving us sloppy, very sloppy at 10 fortitude, and that's the main reason. This deck is specifically going for the +5 fortitude to heal and run-in reversals. And I will show you why in a very short bit. Corey Graves, Savior of Misbehavior. We are playing this specifically because it makes NXT Generation cannot be reversed from hand. That's the only reason we're playing it. Because NXT Generation is such a great card, I wanted to run this combined with Full Sail so that I could play this at 0, cannot be reversed from hand. And then, if it's successful, because of Full Sail, if we play a superstar specific card successfully, we get to shuffle it into our arsenal. So that's the pre-match. I don't think I would change any of it. I really like where it's at. So going into our mid-match, I say this in every video. Your reach exceeds your grasp and restricted use in this area. These 2 cards are so important in virtual today. Reach exceeds your grasp gets you out of. It can reverse cards that have higher fortitude, printed fortitude higher than your opponent's current fortitude. So it stops those cards that are like make this card -12 fortitude, and you play a giant maneuver. This gets you kind of out of that. It also can reverse a multi-volley maneuver. And then when it's in your ring, you can ace it to ignore all play restrictions from your opponent's effects for the rest of the turn. So it gets you out of the volley lock, gets you out of some other things. And you can't reverse that ace. And then restricted just removes all modifications made to an opponent's card that they're playing, modifications from other cards. So it's just a great way, like I mentioned how this makes the NXT Generation not be reversed from hand, you could restrict it and make it reversible from hand. Turning everything upside down, this is my preference to Graceful's Account on Ice. As I mentioned, as an action, when you have lower fortitude, you get to reveal the top 3 cards of your arsenal, put any D3 or less cards in your ring face down, and then once per turn, you can turn a card face up in your ring, as long as it doesn't have win the game in the text. And then as a reversal, reverses the 3rd card played of the reverses a card as long as it's not the 1st or 2nd card played of the turn, and you have less fortitude. It's just, in my opinion, I like this card better than Cal for most of my decks. Can you believe the witty retort? I mentioned this in the Leader of the Edge Army deck. I think this card is really strong and probably should see more play, because it just suffocates some decks that want to be discarding cards to trigger effects, to kind of fuel engines. This card is just going to strangle their resources, because it's going to be, okay, you discard those cards for that effect. Okay, remove them from the game. It's just really good. So that's why I'm playing it. I will never probably play it as an action. So classic teamwork, 4 for 2 mid-match reversal that can only be packed by a tag team. Specifically, superstars that say you're a tag team or accept the tag team titles. Reverse any non-superstar specific, non-maneuver card, or any ace. Draw 2 and discard 1. And you get 2 fortitude off of it. This is just a great reversal for tag teams. This is going to be an old school brawl. There are a lot of decks out there that want to play those cheese maneuvers. This kind of gets you out of a jam with them. You get to play it when they've played their second maneuver with a reversal restriction. It blanks the text and damage, and then he discards 2 random cards, takes 2 damage because you get 2 fortitude, and then while it's in your ring, when he plays a maneuver with a reversal restriction from his hand that's not the first, he overturns 2 cards. So just kind of puts a little bit of a halt to some of those cheese maneuvers. Road to Victory. I just like having this card as making sure I have an answer to it to mid-match cards, especially if you ever catch your opponent with 15 cards in their hand. This is seeing less and less in decks that I'm building now, and probably is being cut from decks that I generally run, just because I'm finding more mid-match cards that I like to play. But I do like having this card in my deck. Then Crucifix Rollup. The reason for this card is I originally thought that this deck would not be able to output enough damage to kill somebody twice. So the superstars that are doing like WrestleMania through all these years, I didn't think I could generate enough damage to deck somebody twice. So I put this in to stop the continue the game effect. Because when it's in your Backlash and your non-legend opponent uses a printed non-superstar specific card to prevent a pinfall, or shuffle cards into their arsenal after a pinfall, you get to put this card in your ring and reverse that effect even during your own turn. So it's just a great card to have. And then if they're not doing that, and your fortitude rating is 10 or greater, you may discard it and draw a card. Victory Roll. As a face grapple, if you played after successfully played 5 damage or greater maneuver, it can only be reversed from hand. When successfully played, you win the game via pinfall. I've never successfully played this, but I like having it as an option against, the kind of sponge decks and the decks that are just generally hard to put away with damage. I wanted a way to at least get it in there. 2 ready to fights. It's just more recursion. We get to shuffle 5 when we play it. It's chain. It's -8 if we have less fortitude, and when it's in our ring, we can ace it to pick up a maneuver. It's not as relevant for the maneuver picking up, because every maneuver that we can pick up, that we're going to pick up, we can pick up with our backstage card. But shuffling 5 is very nice. This deck has a ton of healing, which is great. And then to the card that made me originally want to play the Vaudevillains, backed by Blue Pants. So it's an action multi, but I have yet to play it as an action. Because when it's in your Backlash and your opponent successfully plays a non-hybrid action, you may put this card into your ring, blank that card's text and damage for the rest of the turn, and end his turn. So it's like a hulking up for actions. And this is a very unique thing. There are not a lot of cards that can do that to actions, which is great. And then, when it's in your ring, his run-ins and cards with interfere in the title are +10 fortitude. So, Manager Interferes, once you have backed by Blue Pants out, is a 25 fortitude reversal. Manager Interferes is a lot worse when it's 25 fortitude. That was the whole reason that I wanted these two together, the Playing by the Rules throwback and the Backed by Blue Pants, just punishing those sponge decks that are like, I just need to get to 10 fortitude and just reverse from overturn by Manager Interferes, just over and over again. Nope, now you got to work to get to 25. That was my whole reason, and this card is just amazing. There are definitely combinations of like the decks that run the Abraham Washington show with Grab the Mic. Grab the Mic is a powerful action that plunges you, and they like to combo that as their first turn away of getting on the board. So they go Grab the Mic, you back by Blue Pants, blanket, end the turn, and now it's stuck in their ring. So now the next one that they play isn't a multi that ignores completely. This card is amazing. So that's my Backlash deck. The only card that I would really probably consider changing is the Road. Road to Victory, maybe the Ready to Fights, but I'm still a little on the fence there. But this deck has been performing really well, so I probably would keep it together until I start kind of struggling with it, or I see something that really pops out at me. So we're going to go into the arsenal now. We'll start with, as I always do, with the reversals. We're running the Revolution of the Minds. 3 of them, reverse any strike, gets draw a card, and can spin on overturn, but removes itself from the game. Running this as opposed to the counter package just specifically for room. Revo just gives me more room in the arsenal because I don't feel required, because I feel I'm required when I'm running the counter maneuvers to also run the stepped escapes and the submission reversals, whichever one you want to run. So I went with Revos just for space. And then once is enough, sloppy, very sloppy, very staples in face decks. Once is enough is a 0 fortitude multi-reversal, which is great, and it allows you to overturn sloppy as a reversal. And then sloppy is reverse any card. Get the F out is another multi-reversal, also a unique maneuver reversal that's not a trademark. This card's very important in virtual, as I have mentioned. Sidewalk Slam reverses a cannot be reverse card. I was mentioning to my friends, it's hilarious when you get to say the lines, the only reason I can reverse it is because it says cannot be reversed. And I've said that a couple of times, and it's funny. Volley this is for action reversals. That's really it. Just action reversal that gives you fortitude. I probably could see switching this to No Chance in Hell. Excuse me. Just because removing cards from a ringside pile randomly is a little risky. So, if you guys are playing around with this and you guys feel that that is a way you want to go, I 100% understand and agree, and I may make that change as well. 2, don't try this at home because we want the ace reversals. Total teamwork can only be packed by a tag team. I probably will never play this as an action, but it can only be played as a counter. And your next card played this turn as a maneuver, it can only be reversed from Arsenal. It's just not a great action, but as a reversal, it reverses a non-unique maneuver, and you get to draw 2 cards. 14 gets you 2 damage. Just a pretty good reversal. Our virtual reversal package of Divine, Douchebag, Breaking Ground, Raw Deal Revolution, Missed Your Chance, and Carlito. These cards should just be in every deck. They're just too good in the current format to not. Breaking Ground, as I believe I've said it before, this card is seeing so much play in my decks now. This card is just way too good to not play. You just can jump it in when you're behind, getting some extra fortitude, end your opponent's turn, which is the big part of it. It just really helps out. We're playing Youthful Agility. Can only be packed by an NXT Superstar. As an action, you get to shuffle up to 3 cards from your ringside pile in your arsenal, and then as a reversal, it reverses a strike, grapple, or submission, and you get to drop the 1 card. Just a good reversal. The price we pay, I mentioned this in my last video. This card is seeing a lot more play in my decks as well. Reverses an action, and then each time a player successfully plays a non-setup action, he gives his opponent a choice. Or he makes a choice. He either has to remove the top 2 cards of his arsenal from the game, or allow his opponent to shuffle 3 cards. So, just gives us more healing. That's kind of the thing with this deck, is just I can heal until I can stabilize and start rolling with my maneuvers. Then the Superstar specific reversals, quite manly. One, I love the theme of their cards, and I feel the dev team really hit the nail on the head with these guys. When you played from hand, completely reverse any card. When their card reverse was volley or heat, you remove it from the game. When it was chain, your opponent randomly discards 2 cards. So it's taking those mechanics and flipping them back on your opponent. Just a great card. The Gentleman Bruiser. As an action, you shuffle 2 cards from your from game in your arsenal. And as a reversal, reverse any WWF card or any cards with the word Classic in the title. When it's in your ring or ringside pile and you successfully play a card with Classic in the title, you get to shuffle it into your arsenal. So, it's not a really great reversal, but as an action, shuffling 2 cards from your remove from game pile is really good, and it's reusable as we're playing classic maneuvers. Great. And then Old Fashioned Strength Training. 5 Fortitude Action Multi. As an action, can only be reversed by 2 non-hybrid reversal cards. Put up to 2 cards from your ringside pile into your hand, and your opponent overturns 2 cards. As a reversal, reverse any non-superstar specific maneuver. And when this card's in your ring and you successfully play a superstar specific card, or a card with classic in the title, he overturns 1 card. So we're getting some milling and burning as we're playing our superstar specific cards and our classic maneuvers. I really love their cards. Only running 2 actions. The NXT generation, I spoke a lot of it earlier. Here's the reason why I'm building my pre-match around playing this card. So we get to shuffle 4 from our ringside pile, 4 non-reversals from our ringside pile into our arsenal. Drop the 1 card, and when our opponent is a legend or a WWE superstar, he puts a card from his hand on the bottom of his arsenal. When we're an NXT superstar, we double those numbers. So shuffle 8 non-reversals, draw up to 2, and if your opponent's a legend or WWE superstar, he puts 2 cards from his hand on the bottom of his arsenal. Great, especially when we can reuse it. Once we play it, we can play a superstar-specific NXT card and shuffle it back into our deck. And I mentioned the artiste's auditory ability from an Old Fashioned Auditor. So we get to put it into our ring. While it's in our ring, our cards with classic in the title are +3 damage and +1 stun. And then choose one. So when we actually play it, because remember, we can shuffle it into our deck and then play it. Choose one. Put any number of Old School Antics from our ringside or Backlash into our ring, or promo 4, then shuffle up to 2 cards from our ringside pile into our arsenal. So, say we're getting knocked around a bit. We've used all 3 of our Old School Antics. We've shuffled 12 cards. We got the 12 Fortitude. We shuffled this back into our deck. We draw it, we play it. It's successful. We now get to put all 3 of our Old School Antics back into play and maybe get 12 more healing out of it. Just, this card is, because we can keep recycling this card is great. I will recommend once you hit 12 Fortitude, shuffle this into your deck so that you can start to draw it and start getting those healing and start getting the Old School Antics back in as you're using them as an ace. And then generally that's how you want to do it. And it's also an NXT Superstar specific card for NXT Generation triggering off a Full Sail. Alright, so home stretch here, and I did not get any water, so I apologize if my voice is starting to sound a little hoarse. Alright, so we're running all classic maneuvers and superstar specifics. We're running a fair number of 0 Fortitude maneuvers because we don't have a way of really getting our Fortitude lower, like getting the maneuvers of a lower cost. So we're running 2 classic headlocks. Now remember, we get to double the numbers in these texts, so keep that in mind as I'm going. I'm going to use the doubled numbers. So your opponent will discard 2 cards, then you can discard a card, and if you do, he discards an additional card. So it's going to be a 0 for 4, 0 for 7 with Artiste's auditory ability. Your opponent can discard 3 cards, because you're going to discard a card. Like, there's no reason not to. Classic Snap Suplex. So it's just going to be a 0 for 4 grapple. If it's successful, we get to Arsenal search 2 classic or suplex cards. It's probably the weakest of my 0 Fortitude maneuvers, and probably one of the weakest of my actual maneuvers, but I wanted it as a card to search out, and just having another card that can search for more classic maneuvers is fine. Classic Neck Wrench. This is probably my go-to 0. I love this card. So your opponent discards 2 cards and removes the top card of their arsenal from the game. 0 for 5 just gets you to a nice spot with 5 Fortitude. And your opponent's eventually going to be worn down that as they're reversing maneuvers, putting random cards from their hand on the bottom of their arsenal, too, because you're probably going to have less Fortitude, and then this starts connecting, they're going to discard a ton of cards. They're gonna not have a lot of hand to play the game with. Classic Boxing Jab. It's a 0 for 5 strike. We get to put 2 cards from the bottom of our arsenal into our hand. We're not Michael Tarver, so none of that matters. Then Classic Bulldog. So your opponent reveals his hand. You get to choose 2 of them and put them on the bottom of his arsenal. Just a 5 for 8. We're just going for bridge maneuvers. Just making sure we have a good spread of zeros into bigger maneuvers, into bigger maneuvers, into bigger maneuvers. We're definitely playing a snowball-y kind of ramp maneuver style. Classic Judo Chop might be the best maneuver in this deck, because its effect is so powerful, and we get to pack 2 of them, which is amazing. So you get to choose 2. Your opponent randomly discards 2 Backlash cards, or during his next turn he cannot play non-unique maneuvers. So if it's successful, he discards 2 random Backlash cards and can't play non-unique maneuvers. This card's really good, and it's permanent. 2 classic vertical suplexes. It's just a 3 for 8 that allows us to draw 2 cards. 2 classic claws. This card, it cannot be reversed from hand, backlash, or ringside. And after damage is applied, we get to choose 2 of the overturned cards and remove them from the game. This is probably up there on top maneuvers in the deck. This and classic Judo Chop definitely take the spots. Classic Bulldog Lariat. This card's actually hilarious because it it gets better and worse because of Old Fashioned Auditor. So as a maneuver, it's -6 fortitude, so it's -12, and cannot be reversed by reversals of D2 or greater. So it actually gets easier to reverse, which is a little unfortunate. But as a reversal, reverse any strike, grapple, or submission when that card has the restricted modification symbol. I have gotten to play this as a reversal before, and it's pretty funny. It's pretty hilarious. Classic DDT. It's we overturn 2 cards, and our opponent randomly discards 4 random cards. Randomly discard 4 cards is really good. And then the Big Daddy ring clear. Classic Gorilla Press Slam. When you don't have a power maneuver in your ring, we don't matter for that. Put 1 card in any player's ring into their ringside pile. So put 2 cards in any player's ring into their ringside pile. Ring destruction is very, very strong. Then our one-ofs are 1 classic legwork. I just like this because when played after a maneuver with the classic title, it's -4 fortitude. It's also just a grapple submission multi. I don't play it all that often. This probably could just be a different classic maneuver, but I like having the option. And then classic knee to the groin. It can only be played as basically as a counter, but when played, it's +8 damage and +2 stun. So it'll be +11 damage and +3 stun. So, I mean, a 5 for 15 is kind of hilarious. It's not great, but it's a unique high risk. Those aren't super easy to reverse. And then the superstar specifics. Remember, 2 of these, Gentleman's Clutch and That's a Wrap, are considered classic for our effects, and for our superstar specific effects, and this is also considered to have classic in the title for our card effects. So, Manly Double Team, 5 for 8 strike grapple. When we have 5 plus lower fortitude, it's fortitude 0. So, just another great way to get on the board, and it's considered to have classic in the title for our card effects. Gentleman's Clutch. As a maneuver, it's -10 fortitude and +5 damage, and cannot be reversed from hand by D3 plus cards. So, if I am understanding correctly with this one, That's a Wrap and Gentleman's Clutch. So we actually get to double the numbers in these as well. Right? Double the numbers in their texts. Yeah, that is, so this one gets a little worse. So if we have 10 plus lower fortitude, this card is fortitude 0. If I'm understanding correctly. I could be wrong, don't quote me. I'm just now figuring this out. But this one is -20 fortitude and +10 damage, and cannot be reversed from hand by D6 plus cards. As a reversal, reverses any action or submission. This card's just a solid card. That's a wrap. This card is blank if you have 3 Old School Antics in your ringside pile, so you get rid of the can only be played text. 20 for 20 high risk trademark. It's considered to have classic, so it can be 20 for 23. And it's especially good because we can then pick it up with our Old Fashioned Way. And then the Whirling Dervish, when you have 3 plus cards with classic in the title in your ring, this is a multi. When you have 6, It's a require 3 reversals instead of 2. And as an action, it's Fortitude 0, considered to be non-hybrid. Put this card in up to 1 card from ringside pile on the bottom of your arsenal. So this is another card that I wanted, is why I wanted to go full sale, because it's a recurring superstar-specific card that allows you to shuffle this into your deck. So guys, that is my Vaudevillains Classic Execution. Deck runs really well. I'm really happy with it. I won one of my games in the last Octagon tournament that I won with it against Dolph Ziggler. I had 98 fortitude or 108 fortitude. I had some high number fortitude because I really got rolling. So check it out. Leave a comment in the video below in the section. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. I'm gonna put the deck list in the video description. If you guys have any questions, please reach out to me. I love talking about this game. I'm gonna put a link to the Discord as well. Please feel free to join it. Talk about virtual. We want more people. I want to bring more people into the greatness that is virtual, in my opinion. This is such a great way to play the game, and we are more than welcome to help you out. So that I know it can be a little overwhelming, but you've got good people here looking out for you. All right, guys. Have a great night.